All right, let's talk about alcohol stoves for a minute. These are going to be your lightest option for a camp stove. Two examples I have here. This is made by White Box Stoves. It's real durable. I think it's made out of a Bud Light bottle can. You could stand on top of this thing and you're not going to break it. The way these work is there's two layers of metal here, so it's a double wall little container. You pour your alcohol on the inside and you light it on top. As the alcohol burns, it warms up the metal, and alcohol that gets in between the two layers starts to vaporize and come out of these little holes on the side, and it will then bloom almost like a stovetop burner. I'd show you right now, but it's so sunny out that you won't be able to see the actual flame. The alcohol I use for those is this real cheap Gasline antifreeze. It's heat. I use the yellow bottle. It's a different alcohol than the red bottle, and this stuff burns a lot cleaner. It won't get your stove all black and gummed up around the edges. Another even lighter version is this is my first alcohol stove I ever had. It's made out of a Red Bull can, and this one has been around for almost 10 years. It weighs 5 grams. That's as much as a nickel. Super lightweight, definitely not as durable. You can see there's some creases, but it still works fine. Same thing, you just take the alcohol, you pour it in there, about an ounce per meal. You light it up on top, and after about a minute, maybe a little bit less, it'll start to burn out of these little holes on the sides. So it's another option. Sometimes for a longer trip, I'll bring a whole bottle of heat. Other times I'll bring, if it's just a little short jaunt, or if I don't have to do a lot of cooking, maybe I've got cold lunches or really easy breakfast, or maybe I plan to use a campfire for dinner. I'll carry the alcohol in a smaller bottle like this. This way it takes up less space in the pack, a little bit less weight. And sometimes too, if you want to, you can take a marker and measure a small bottle like this, at every ounce line, so that you have a better idea of how much fuel is left. Let's say that you're doing mostly mountain house meals. A lot of those take about 2 cups of water. So if you know that it takes about, say 1.5 ounces to boil 2 cups of water, you'll be able to measure that out on your container here. There are other types of alcohol stoves that are a little bit different in that they don't have a wide open top, where technically alcohol could spill out. These are also hard to turn off. The best way to turn one of these stoves off is to just cover it like that, cutting off the oxygen. But and several others make alcohol stoves that are filled with carbon felt. And the way that works is you pour your alcohol in there, the felt absorbs it so it doesn't slosh around, it won't spill, and it'll burn just like any other alcohol stove. Some even have attachments. You can put your fuel bottle with a hose right to your little alcohol stove. They get really fancy, but for what I use, I keep things pretty simple. There's also tons of videos to make them yourself. Be a fun project too for you. So those are the alcohol stoves. Real quick too, this one comes with, and most stoves are going to come with, a windscreen. So right now it's kind of windy outside here. The way the windscreen works is you wrap it around and paper clip it so it's around your stove. This way you can put your pot on here, it'll cook, and the wind won't blow the flame out sideways. So it helps you to conserve fuel and heat things up a lot faster. If you plan to bring out brats or hot dogs, you could definitely cook them maybe on a stick. Some campsites in the woods will have campfire grates on top of fire pits. You can also buy a small grate like this. They fold open, they're real simple. Some people will even take grates from tripods at home or from their microwave ovens or refrigerators. Any sort of a steel grate can work. You can even put a flat grate on top of 2 rocks, 2 sticks over your fire, and this just makes it easier to cook a couple burgers, some chicken, a steak if you want. If you're going to boil water, you can put your water up here over the fire. If you have coals down here and you put your pot right in the coals, what happens is the pot will smother the coals that it's on top of. It'll cool them down and smother them. If you can get your pot up off the fire, there's a lot more air underneath, you get a lot more heat under your pot, you'll cook things a lot faster. This is a great option, especially if you've got bigger pots or bigger pieces of meat, like big steaks that you want to cook up. Another option is one of these canister style stoves. This one is really not what you want for backpacking. This one is really, really big. But just as an example, so this is propane. You can buy isobutane canisters. They're only about maybe as tall as this cup. They're real short, and the stovetop burners, this one is enormous, but you can buy them almost the size of this lighter when they're packed up, and they're real cheap. So you can get little stoves that will screw on to little canisters like this size. Super convenient for warm weather camping. One of the downsides is that they have very tiny little legs on top, and so if you've got a large pot, say you've got a pot this size, and you're trying to balance on something that's only maybe 2 inches across, it can be real tippy. So I personally prefer to have a larger stove. Now if you're using an alcohol stove, a really good trick you can do is take a couple of tent stakes and poke them in the ground around your burner inside of your windscreen. This way your pot can sit on top of your tent stakes instead of on top of the little alcohol stove where it might tip over. You can also buy pot stands specifically for alcohol stoves if you buy them online. You want to take into consideration the size of your pot and the size of your stove. Make sure it's a good match. Another type of fuel is what they call camp fuel. This is white gasoline. It burns really clean. One of the biggest benefits is it does not explode like regular gasoline for your car. If you were to spill gasoline, if you have a stove like this one that uses a pump to build up pressure inside the tank, these have O-rings in them. If the O-ring happens to go, sometimes you can get gas squirting out. It's really rare, but it's possible. This stuff is great because it won't explode if it ignites. It's relatively cheap. It also burns at extremely cold temperatures. If you were to take something like this out at 30 below zero, middle of a Wisconsin winter, there's a good chance that it won't work. Even little butane lighters like this, like these big lighters, these don't work when it gets 20 below. So if you're in cold weather conditions, this white gas, it works great even at 40 below. This is an MSR Dragonfly stove. There's another style that's real similar called a Whisper Light. Now these are relatively compact. The fuel bottle itself pops right off, and the whole stove folds up. So it's definitely bigger than, say, an alcohol stove, but this can do a lot more work. This is great for like a canoe trip or a colder weather backpacking trip, or if you plan to cook for a big group. It's just really reliable, really simple to use. One of the features I like about this particular stove is I can actually adjust the level of the flame. So there's other stoves out there that are really designed just to heat water. Some people are going to use freeze-dried meals or oatmeal or dry cheesy hash browns that are all you have to do is add water, things like that, things that just take hot water. You don't really need a lot of fancy adjustability or features on a stove. But if you like to do, say, pancakes or do some baking, some finer cooking, it's nice to have some adjustability. So with this stove, I can actually adjust the level of the flame. It's got a cousin called the Whisper Light, which is essentially the same stove but without this little adjuster on the side here. Now these bottles are refillable, which is great. So I can buy one tank of fuel like this and refill a bunch of bottles. Now when I'm out in the field using these stoves, let's say I've got a week-long Boundary Water canoe trip. All right, this fuel bottle is going to last maybe 4 days of heavy use, and I've got extra small bottles like this. Instead of bringing a big container of fuel like this, I'll pack extra fuel in a bottle about this size. And as these get low, I'll refill them with this. The reason for it is these have a pump, and if I'm using a large bottle and I only have this much fuel left, it takes a lot of pumping to pressurize this much space. If I use this bottle to refill the little one, and this bottle gets down to 1/4, it's a lot less pumping to pressurize it. Now we're ready to go. Now this also has a windscreen that goes around. And again, this just helps it trap some of that heat so you're not wasting fuel, especially on windy days. And there's also a windscreen that goes underneath, basically just a piece of aluminum foil, and that helps the stove from from losing heat from down below. It also helps protect the ground if you've got maybe really dry ground. You don't want to start any fires or anything like that. So having a piece of foil underneath can help. I've got the fuel bottle on the outside. I can sit my pot right in the middle. All right, let's talk about your actual cooking kit now, your cooking pot, pan. We've got a couple different styles. We've got nonstick aluminum, titanium, and steel. So for most people, I would recommend a nonstick aluminum. It's my favorite. It's relatively cheap. This kit might be anywhere from 30 to 50 bucks. What's nice about the nonstick aluminum is you can cook your eggs in there, your bacon, pancakes. You can cook, you know, real food, and it's not going to stick to the pan. A lot of people, if you go online and you ask in the different forums out there about the best cookware, people will swear by titanium. The problem with titanium is the hot spots are insane. If you've got a pot here and you've got a burner on high, the bottom of the pot can be red hot and the upper edges are going to be a lot cooler. So they get hot spots, and that means you're going to burn your food. There's a reason we don't use titanium cookware in our kitchens at home. It's not great cookware. It is ideal for boiling water, for making a lot of soup, things like that. It's fantastic. This bowl is a bowl that I'll use just for eating out of. Sometimes I might try to cook maybe soup in here over a small stove, but for an ultralight utensil and bowl and cup kit, I'll use a titanium bowl like this and a titanium coffee cup. In fact, if I'm trying to do an ultralight trip, this titanium coffee cup will be my cooking container. It'll be my pot for boiling water, for cooking food. I'll be eating out of here. It'll be my coffee cup. This is the only cup I'll bring. So I'll have this and a water bottle, and that's it. I usually store them like this in my pack, and that's it. So very, very lightweight. This cup holds about 20 ounces of liquid. It's almost indestructible. It's lightweight. It's great. The handles too on your camp cookware. Sometimes you'll see silicone covered handles. You got to be careful. If you're going to cook over a campfire, there's a good chance any rubber on here is going to just melt off. Even if it's a high temperature silicone, you're going to burn it off. So be really mindful. Think about the type of cooking that you're going to do. Our next type of cookware is steel. Now what's nice about steel is when it warms up, it holds heat for a long time, so it's great for cold weather camping. You don't get as many hot spots. The downside is it weighs a ton. So if you're trying to do some ultralight backpacking, it's probably going to be a little bit heavier than you want. It is very cheap, and that's a big plus. Here's another steel container. So this is a nesting set of pots. They're heavy, but they also have this heat exchanger on the outside. Now this is more of a cold weather camping thing, and definitely not ultralight for backpacking. But what this does is this actually helps to collect any heat lost off the sides when cooking with a stove. This heats up around the edges here and helps cook your food faster. So I'm just using this as an example. Definitely not something you want to take 3-season backpacking, but it is an option. For a pan, a lot of these pots, they'll have a pan lid. And you notice this is kind of larger than what you might see in a lot of stores. There's a lot of very compact camp cook kits that are about this big. Everything fits together. These little bitty cups, little bitty bowls. You know, those are great, but you know, the way that I like to camp, I will usually have a campfire or a camp stove, and I don't want to have to worry about melting my gear. So I like having just metal cookware. So our titanium stuff, our nonstick aluminum stuff, our steel stuff, I'll move all this over here. And you got the super duper ultralight DIY homemade backpacking gear junkie stuff. This is a Heineken keg can, beer can, and for a while, they don't make these keg style cans anymore, but for a while people were taking these cans. Notice they've got a really wide top, and they were using these for a cooking pot. So again, if you're just cooking water, if you're boiling water for your freeze-dried Mountain House meal, you could take something like this. Now here's an example of a pot not fitting on top of my stove. This of course would match an alcohol stove. So I've got a stove that weighs as much as a nickel, a pot that weighs as much as maybe I don't know, 3 nickels. And for the lid, it's just the top of the can. There's a lip on here that's silicone, so you can drink out of there, you can pick it up from there. I have another one that's wrapped with fiberglass, and so you can actually pick it up when it's hot. But this is just really thin aluminum, and this is the lightest pot that I've got. But you know, there's lots of options out there. You can definitely get creative. And to store this in, because it is a aluminum can and it could get crushed, is I've got a plastic container here which doubles as a food bowl and keeps everything nice and tight and secure. Some different camp cup options. You've got your titanium coffee mug, camp cup, cook pot. This is kind of a do-all. Fantastic. This is real cheap. Find these at any big box store. I don't know what brand this one is, but it's just a folding steel camp cup, a little bit heavier. This has a nice long handle too, so it's easy to, you know, put on top of a fire or take off your stove without burning yourself. Another option, real cheap and real simple, is a measuring cup. Now this is a 1 cup measure. It actually has lines that are labeled in here. So if you like to do a lot of real cooking in the backcountry and you need to measure out, say, powdered milk, because you're going to make some fancy pancakes or something, or you're measuring out water for freeze-dried eggs, this really comes in handy. Serves multiple purposes, super simple, very lightweight. The other option is something like this. This is a real cheap, I believe it's a Swiss military folding cup. You can buy them online, you can buy them at some stores. They just pop open like this. They don't hold a whole heck of a lot. About a cup, and just real simple and real compact. There you go. As far as utensils go, I always use a spoon. I don't spend a bunch of money on a fancy spoon because spoons get lost. This one's plastic. I have another spoon that I love to use. It's a very long handled metal spoon. If you're going to use Mountain House meals or some of those packaged freeze-dried meals, if you're going to use the Mountain House package itself as your bowl to eat out of, it's good to have a spoon with a long handle. That way you can reach down in there without getting your hand all nasty, reaching inside the pouch. Another must-have utensil is one of these. Now there's different types of pot grippers. This is the cheapest one I could find and is one of my favorites. I have a more expensive version that actually bent, holding a heavy pot of water. But what's nice about these is you can pick up, you know, any type of shape, pot, pan. You can pick up metal plates. You know, real simple. It's really, really secure. Super easy. So, you know, if you've got your hot cocoa cooking on your camp stove and maybe the handle gets hot, it's nice to have this in your pocket. Reach over, grab your pot, and you're good to go. Just super convenient. When I'm out with a group, I'll carry 2 of these because, you know, things like this, if they get lost, it's really unfortunate. Another option you can do is just bring a glove. Depending on what type of camping you're doing, if you plan to have campfires, it's not a bad idea to have a glove with you or something you can use to protect your hand from grabbing large pots, maybe pots of water, or you can bring, you know, fry pans out there, or even just reaching the fire to move a hot log. If you have a nice leather glove, it's easy. You reach in the fire, grab the hot log, readjust, you know, grab your steak with your tongs off the fire, and you're good to go. As far as cleaning your pots and pans, what I'll do is I'll bring, depending on how many days I'm out, I'll bring a couple of these green scrubbies and I'll cut them into quarters. So I just have maybe a little piece, and each day I'll take one small square and I'll use that for doing the dishes for the whole day. And then at the end of the day, I'll throw it into a trash bag that I've got with me, usually a big Ziploc bag. And so each day I've got a new scrubby, so I'm not, you know, carrying around a nasty, gross scrubby after 3-4 days that's getting moldy or anything. It'll be secured in a Ziploc and works really, really well. For soap, you want to use a biodegradable soap. And the important thing with camp soap is you don't want to wash your dishes in the lake that you're getting your water from or fishing in. You want to get water from the lake and take it away from the lake. Do your dishes out there. If you've got a lot of nasty dishes, maybe you're cooking for a group, but if you have a lot of stuff that you need to get to wash out of your pots and pans, it's not a bad idea to actually dig a little hole, almost like a cat hole, like if you're going to the bathroom. Dig a little hole or a sump and dump the dirty wastewater into there. So this is a biodegradable soap. It's good for laundry, it's good for washing dishes, it's good for washing your hair. Again, not in the lake or creek that you're camped on. These are very concentrated. It doesn't take a whole lot to get the job done. So a little container like this will last many, many, many trips. Another thing that you might want to consider is a little scraper like this. Really, it can be any hard piece of plastic. This has a soft, flexible side and a really rigid side for scraping pots. Generally, this is all I ever bring. They're lightweight, they're flat. If I've got some big steel pots and pans, I'll actually bring maybe steel wool too for scrubbing pots. As far as doing dishes, if I've got a group, I'll bring something like this. This is a kitchen sink. It's a 10 liter or 2.5 gallon container that folds up flat. Now for backpacking, where you're taking care of yourself, this is kind of overkill. It does make a nice water bucket if you need a bath out in the backcountry after 5 days. You can scoop water from the lake, take this over to your camp, and do like a sponge bath with this. So the way this works is it pops open like this. Now I have a pot of water here, and the way this works, I'll show you. I'm actually going to just fill this bucket up. Do it kind of slowly here, but you can see it takes a nice shape, holds itself up. Now it's not full, but there's about 2 gallons of water in here. This is an 8-quart pot. And so now I can use this water to wash dishes, wash my face, wash my hands. It's really, really convenient. Takes up no space. I've had this one for a few years now. There's no holes in it. It works really nice. To wash something like this, when you get home, just throw some soapy water in there and wash it in your sink, and it's good to go. I want to show you some larger pots and pans that I use when I'm guiding groups of anywhere from 6 to 20 people on backcountry trips. Now these are not lightweight. I will carry some of these in a backpack. For example, I've got a couple pots. This is an 8-quart, so it's a little bit larger, and I'll actually carry these in a large backpack. They don't weigh a whole lot. I mean, they're steel, they're real cheap. I think this one pot was maybe $8. But what's nice is they're relatively stackable. One thing that I plan to do this winter to make them more stackable is I'm going to cut the handles off and run a piece of steel cable across the center as a bail handle so I can hang it over a fire. These handles are really nice. I'll probably keep the handles on the biggest one for scooping up water from lakes and creeks, but I'll cut the handles off the smaller ones here. But you can do a 1-pot meal for a group of 12 people in this pot, no problem. And you can put this over the fire, over a couple of stoves, 1 stove, maybe 2 stoves, have a big pot of spaghetti in here. Super simple. It's more practical to do big group meals. So we've got a couple pots. Another thing that I have to take into consideration when I'm doing a bigger group trip is how do I get all the gear out there? So I have to pack this stuff in, and in the wintertime I'll have a sled. In the summertime, if I'm on a canoe trip, I might have a barrel or some sort of a plastic container. So I want stuff that's going to be relatively compact and stackable. So this is a 5-gallon bucket that I'll take out on, say, a canoe trip. And in here, I've got lids to some of my pots. I actually got two milk pails. These are stainless steel. They nest really nice. So I've got one that is a water pot. So this is heating up water for dishes or for boiling for maybe hot drinks, coffee in the morning, for example. Within these 2 pots, I've got 2 smaller milk pails. So one of these, for example, I can make a nice big 2-liter pot of rice. So if I'm doing, say, chicken and vegetables with rice, I can make my chicken and vegetables in here, make the rice in here, and it cooks up great. These are little 6-inch pie pan lids that I'll use for those little pots. And for the big pots, I've got standard size stainless steel pie pan lids, and they just sit right on there. They also double as serving plates or a personal plate for myself. If I'm cooking over a campfire, sometimes I'll use this as a fry pan. Remember that really cheap little $5 pot gripper? So if you need a handle for a fry pan, there you go. It's real secure, and I can use this to maybe make some pancakes or fry bacon. I'll also put these on my wood stove in the wintertime, but they're really nice. You can even put one over the other and bake over a fire like this. Hey, if you want to keep some kind of dessert warm at night, maybe you made an apple crisp by the fireside, you can put hot water in the big pot, put this on top, and it's like a chafing dish now. It keeps your dessert warm for the whole group. It's not ultralight, but it is an option out there, depending on what type of camping you plan to do and what types of meals you plan to prepare. Hi, this is Nicholas Gordon, wilderness instructor, EW Milwaukee. I also teach and guide for my company Now Outdoors, where we want to help you become more skilled, more knowledgeable, and more confident outdoors. I also teach at the Soul School of Wilderness Medicine. You can find more information on my classes and programs and trips at nowoutdoors.org. All right, let's talk about outdoor cooking. Some people will spend tons and tons of money on really fancy camping gear, only to go and eat ramen noodle soup or peanut butter sandwiches in the woods. Some people eat to live, others live to eat. So depending on what type of person you are and what type of foods you like to eat, there really isn't anything that you can't make on the trail. There's lots of online resources for making your own meals, whether they're dehydrated or just prepared from dry ingredients that are easy to make, like simple pasta dishes. You can make really complex meals like stuffed peppers, following a basic stuffed pepper recipe, but dicing everything up and then dehydrating. There's all sorts of things you can do. So I want to show you a few options that I've got here. The most common, convenient ultralight option is to use packaged freeze-dried meals. So this is a brand called Packet Gourmet. We've got sausage and eggs with cheese. See, we've got strawberry cheesecake, which is a nice dessert. Happy hour queso. This is an all-American Works burger that I tried for the first time. A friend of mine suggested I use it to make almost like a backcountry nacho platter, and I did. It was fantastic. Just using chips and all the ingredients like nacho toppings. A real common brand you'll see at the stores is Mountain House. They look like this. What's nice about the packages is you add hot water right to the bag, you zip it up, you let it cook, just let it be for a few minutes, 10-15 minutes, the food cooks inside, and then it's ready to go. So this is chicken and mashed potatoes, right? 22 grams of protein per serving. Now this package says that there's 2 servings in here, so you double that, you're at 44 grams of protein, 1,600 milligrams of sodium. These tend to be really high in sodium. The downside to this particular one is if you eat the whole container, you only give me 440 calories. It's really important to be calorie conscious when you're planning your backcountry food. You're going to be burning through calories like crazy, especially if you got some high mile days. So you need lots of snacks if you're going to eat meals like this that don't have a whole heck of a lot of calories. Ideally, if you can get 1,000 calories in per meal plus snacks a day, you'd be in pretty good shape. So something like this, chicken and mashed potatoes, I'd probably add maybe some cheese to this. You know, I don't know, maybe butter, sour cream. You can get freeze-dried butter and sour cream. You can add to that. But you want to add a little bit of something to this if you want. Really simple go-tos, sort of staples would be, oatmeal in the morning. It's super simple. You just have to boil water. You can actually tear the top off the oatmeal container and pour all the hot water right in the bag. Mix it up in there. You don't have to get any of your dishes dirty. If you have a fire in the morning, some people will burn up the paper. I generally don't have a campfire in the morning, so I'll pack everything out. And takes up no space. A typical breakfast for me might be 3 packets of these and a cup of coffee with hot cocoa mixed in there for some extra calories. So again, real simple. Pop-Tarts are an easy go-to. Think about convenience too. If you are in no hurry in the morning, maybe you don't mind taking a stove out and making a more elaborate breakfast, like one of these freeze-dried breakfast meals. But a lot of times you want to just pack up and get going. So something like this is just super easy. Another go-to for a lot of folks, when you're backpacking, you want to keep lunch simple, right? If you're on the trail, you're taking a little break for lunch, maybe you don't want to get your stove out or build a fire and do all that stuff. So something real simple like sausage and cheese in a tortilla wrap. That's one of my favorite go-tos. You can put anything in a tortilla. You can put peanut butter and jelly in a tortilla. You can buy packets of tuna, those foil packets of tuna, and if you know the right gas station on the way up to the woods that might have some mayo packets and relish packets, you can mix mayo and relish in your tuna and make tuna salad. Tuna salad on the trail is great. High in protein, will fill you up real quick. Tuna's not ultralight, but if you're only going out for a weekend, a couple of tuna packets, or even packaged chicken, it really is a nice hearty lunch. Another thing that you might want to consider, if you want to bring eggs, maybe you don't want to bring the freeze-dried eggs, you can get fresh eggs in the woods with one of these. Now this looks really flimsy, and I didn't buy them for years because I thought they would never work. This one holds 6 eggs. You can buy large ones that hold 12 or even 18. The first time I brought this out to the woods, I was hanging my food on a bear bag tree with a whole bunch of other people, and the branch ended up breaking off and it came crashing down right on top of my bag, and my eggs were fine. This thing worked really well considering, and it's nice to have some fresh eggs sometimes. Some people want to bring the fresh eggs and bacon. That's up to you. To each their own. But fresh eggs on the trail is a real treat, especially on those longer trips for the first couple days. Something that you might want to consider for eating container or storage for camping foods are just reusing plastic containers like this. This was, I believe, a container of lemonade. Maybe it was Tang. I think this was probably a Tang container. So when you're done with it, take the label off. You can put trail mix in here. This could be a food bowl for eating out of. It's lightweight. You can put your hot cocoa in here and have a screw-on lid. You can use this for your bowl and this for your cup for drinking your cocoa in the morning or your coffee. It doesn't have to be fancy, and these things are really nice and solid. So there's an option for you. I need to make sure I've got plenty of electrolytes. These are Propel packets. There's all different kinds of things you can use. Noon tablets are another really popular one, but they go a long way. When I'm backpacking, every other liter of water that I drink has at least some sort of electrolyte mix in it, and that helps me go a lot further without getting tired and worn out. Something that I like to bring on the trail is dry milk. This comes in handy if you're a coffee drinker and you want some cream. You can add some powdered milk to your coffee. You can add powdered milk to a bowl of granola. You throw some water in there, that rehydrates the milk, now you've got granola cereal. If you're making pancakes, or say you're gonna make some chocolate pudding for dessert, you can pre-mix the dry milk in your dry pudding mix at home and put that in a Ziploc bag before you even get to the wood. That way it's all ready to go, or you just have to add water. Adds a few other things, chocolate chip muffins. You can make these on the trail too. There's some different ways of doing it. Lots of YouTube videos out there and lots of resources. Let's see what else. Corn. At some point, I decided to buy freeze-dried corn, apparently. This must have been a long time ago. It's still good. This is a strawberry dairy shake, high protein shake. Just add water. Out on the trail, got some powdered eggs. Powdered eggs are really tough to reconstitute. The best way that I've found is to mix up the correct amount of water, stir it up really good, and pour the powdered eggs into a fry pan or a bowl over a fire or stove, and then mix it as it cooks. They'll scramble up and they'll be amazing. But if you don't have it over an open fire or a stove to really cook it through, it just gets sloppy. So take powdered eggs with a side of caution. Another really simple way to go is soup, right? Soup, or just add water pasta meals. Bear Creek is a brand that makes tons of different pasta dishes. We just have to add water. Super simple. This is a chicken flavored noodle soup. If you go and get a really cheap bag of Bisquick, you can make dumplings. Just add water to the Bisquick, have your soup going, drop the little spoonfuls of Bisquick into the soup, and they'll cook into dumplings in a heartbeat, and you'll have a great soup for dinner. Ramen is great, but you can add more to it. You can bring chicken mixes, you can bring chicken packets or other things to add to it. This is a Velveeta cheese sauce. Velveeta is, very cheap. You can buy macaroni and cheese, and if you get the sauce packets like this, you don't have to add butter or milk or anything else. They're ready to go. Here's our stack of Mountain House meals. We've got turkey dinner casserole, biscuits and gravy, sweet sour pork and rice, scrambled eggs, chicken teriyaki, chili mac with beef, dumplings with chicken, beef stroganoff. Here's a Bear Creek creamy cheddar pasta. Now this says it's enough for 8 servings. This is enough for one really hungry camper. Don't be fooled. It's really, really good. It takes about 12 minutes to cook. Real simple. I think this was maybe $2 or $3 for the meal. So you can divide it in half and get 2 meals out of it, no problem.
Some of you might recognize these. These are MREs. They're very high in calorie. They're not ultralight by any means. There's a lot of weight here, but they are very calorie dense, and they're getting better. They're not as nasty as some of them used to be. So it is an option. Here's a StarKist tuna packet. This is what I'm talking about before. You can cut the top off and throw in some mayonnaise packets and some relish and make a real quick tuna salad. And there's enough here for several wraps, so it's a really hearty lunch. There's a lot of great resources online for making your own meals for cheap. So do some research, get an idea what's out there. Don't just show up with, you know, half a dozen peanut butter sandwiches for a weekend trip. There's a lot more that you can do out there and really have a good time. If you have a favorite recipe, please share, write it down in the comments. I'd love to see it, and so would our other viewers. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.